Anthony, the young master of Jiangqing, is my son. Though young in age, he's shrewd beyond his years, obsessed with matchmaking his father with Grace. As for me, his biological mother, he sneers, she's not worth one of Grace's fingers. Thank goodness my dad doesn't like her anymore. After hearing those words, I got into a car accident. When I woke up again, my memories had returned. The truth was I never loved his father, much less him. The first second I opened my eyes, I saw Anthony. He sat by my bedside with his stern little face. When he saw I was awake, he immediately relaxed and picked up his smartwatch to ask, "Dad, she's awake. Can I go now?" Moments later, a deep voice came through the smartwatch. "Spend more time with your mother." Anthony was instantly displeased. "Why not? You and Grace get to go to Paris." All right. Since you've been decent to Grace, I'll reluctantly stay." He hung up the phone, in high spirits. Clearly, he was getting closer and closer to success on his path to becoming a little matchmaker. Watching this scene, my heart was filled with irony. My own flesh and blood had actually abandoned me to find himself a stepmother. As I thought this, Anthony's muffled voice reached my ears. "You were just eavesdropping on my phone call. You know Dad took Grace out, right? Let me tell you, you're not allowed to be jealous of Grace. She and Dad were meant to be together. If you hadn't shown up first, Dad would have married Grace long ago." Before he could finish, I shot him a glance. "Shut up. I'm in a bad mood right now and don't want to hear you talk." He froze, not expecting me to snap at him. Anger flashed across his face. "Is the truth really that hard to hear?" "Humph, I don't like you anyway, and neither does Dad. You'll get divorced sooner or later, and I won't go with you either." He grew more pleased with himself as he spoke, lifting his little face proudly. I couldn't help but recall why he hated me so much. It's simply because I wouldn't let him bully other children by flaunting the Huo family's influence. That made him unhappy, because in his eyes, that didn't even count as bullying. Just making others run errands for him. Having people act as his lackeys, what's the big deal? He's the young master of the Huo family, the little crown prince of Jiangqing. Everyone except me coddles him. So I, his birth mother, became a thorn in his side. He even thought I stopped him from acting like a spoiled young master because I used to be poor. He even declared that a poor woman like me was utterly unworthy of being his mother. Of course, Albert would discipline him. As his father and my husband, Albert was the most authoritative figure in the household. Yet after disciplining him, he would also say to me, "Sweetheart, you mustn't be angry with our son. He's the fruit of our love, you should cherish him." That's how Albert deceived me, making me live these 5 years without my memories. I gave them father and son my whole heart. It wasn't until today, when a car accident restored my memories, that I remembered. Marrying Albert was forced upon me. Giving birth to Anthony was also against my will. To me, they're both imposters, utterly repulsive beings. I had a husband I truly loved, and a child I genuinely cherished, too, but my husband is already dead. Only that child remained. He was just 1 year older than Anthony and attended the same elementary school. In my memories, I had seen him many times. Dressed in tattered clothes, when he saw me holding Anthony's hand, he pressed his lips tightly together, his eyes brimming with grievance and resentment. I used to wonder what deep-seated grudge this child held. Turns out, he was a child abandoned by his mother. All these years, we were mother and son who met as strangers. At this realization, my tears kept rolling down uncontrollably. I want to see him. I can't wait to see him. And at this moment, Anthony thought I was crying for him. He grew slightly impatient. "Crying again. I won't feel sorry for you. You're just pretending anyway, hoping we'll kick Grace out, aren't you? Let me tell you, keep dreaming." Before he could finish speaking, I already pinched the tender flesh of his cheek. "Ow, that hurts." Anthony's eyes turned red. He looked at me in disbelief. After all, this was the first time I'd ever laid hands on him. I used to dote on him so much before. Even if he calls me an old witch, I pretend not to hear it. I still bake his favorite cake, waiting for him to come home from school. He's afraid of the dark, but too proud to admit it. So I pretend it's me who can't bear to be apart from him, keeping watch by his bedside every night until he falls asleep. He's so well-behaved when asleep, rolling over to hug me and calling me mommy in that milky sweet voice. But no matter how warm the memories, they were just part of the deception. He was never a child I willingly chose to bear. And now, I didn't lay hands on him to teach him a lesson. I simply wanted to give him a taste of his own medicine. "Have you been bullying Simon at school?" "Simon is my child." I remember, Anthony once called him little beggar. I let go of my hand, waiting for Anthony to respond. Anthony's tears hadn't dried yet. His chubby hands rubbed his cheeks, and in his eyes, besides anger and pain, there was actually a trace of grievance. He turned a deaf ear to my question. He just kept crying and making threats on his own. "You actually pinched my cheek. I'm telling Dad. Wow. Grace would never lay a hand on me. Wow." His crying was giving me a headache. All that remained was irritation, and suddenly I understood why men only cherish children born from their beloved. Now that it's my turn, I feel the same. I waved my hand at him without the slightest hesitation. "Then go find your Grace." "But..." I paused. "Before you go, I must warn you." Having calmed the turmoil in my heart, I spoke to him word by word. "Anthony, if you ever dare to bully my Simon again, I'll hang you up and beat you, you hear me?" For I used to be too good to Anthony, so good that he thought I had no temper. You're Simon? His face puffed up with anger, but I didn't even know what I was angry about. Yes, Simon is the child I love most. Thinking of Simon living alone and pitifully these past 5 years, I felt somewhat dazed. Anthony's flushed little face gradually cooled down. I get it. You're pretending to be clueless and crazy. Want daddy to come back from Paris to see you. Is that it? Ha! Dream on. Anthony loosened his tightly clenched hands, as if relieved. But the next second, he rolled his eyes at me hard. After all, I used to do this kind of thing often. I thought I liked Albert and often wavered between hope and fear. Especially after Grace appeared, every time Albert went out for social engagements, I would become restless and then feign illness to force him to come back. Once, to make it seem more convincing, I even soaked in an ice bucket for half an hour and ended up really getting sick. But on the phone, Albert remained unmoved. Go see a doctor directly. I don't know how to cure illnesses. At that time, I was truly heartbroken, neglected, cold-shouldered. My husband doesn't like me. My son hates me too. I even contemplated suicide. So in that car accident, I deliberately let go of the steering wheel, allowing myself to roll off the highway. Fortunately, I didn't die and even regained my memories. In the past, I used to grieve because Albert didn't love me. Now I only feel that my suffering has come to an end. From now on, with Grace by his side, he surely won't keep clinging to me anymore. He won't be able to use Simon to threaten me anymore. I can go find Simon now. So I immediately pulled out the slit tube, disregarding the bandages still wrapped around my head, and rolled out of bed. Ooh, what are you doing? Trying to cause trouble. Anthony frantically stopped me. He thought I was rushing to Paris to ruin Albert and Grace's affair. I'm the love guardian of Dad and Grace. I won't let you go, Anthony said with great pride. I found it even more amusing. I leaned over and patted his head. It was a gesture Grace often made toward him. But at this moment, he pushed my hand away. Don't touch me. I promised Grace only she can touch my little head. Oh, I withdrew my hand, completely indifferent. You and your Grace are truly the best match in the world. Of course we are. My gaze suddenly turned profound as I murmured to myself. I have my own number one too. I'm going to find him now. From now on, you can be whoever's son you want to be. I'm no longer your mother. Anthony, goodbye. 6 Simon had been living with his uncle and aunt. When I went there, his uncle and aunt actually pretended not to know me. Until I told them I had regained my memory. Only then did they change their attitude. But they still avoided me like the plague. What are you doing here? We have nothing to do with you. Go be your young mistress, ancestor. Otherwise, Albert won't let us off. It seems they're terrified of Albert. Albert said he doesn't want me anymore. They finally relaxed, but still didn't believe it. Really? But just last month, he was still paying us hush money, and his assistant warned us again. Clearly, he still values you. Before she could finish speaking, she covered her mouth. Her eyes were filled with guilt. My expression darkened. Oh, she said, I thought you were struggling financially. So you took the hush money and still mistreated my child. I leaned forward, taking in the lavish decor of their home. Their flashy, designer outfits. I knew it. Albert never disappoints. Yeah, my Simon wears a thin padded jacket even in the dead of winter. His backpack, pants, and shoes are all faded from wear. That's why Anthony called him a little beggar. A faint voice suddenly came from behind. Mom, is that you? I turned around and saw it was Simon coming home from school. He was still carrying that old backpack, looking up at me in a daze as if in a dream. 7 Without another word, I snatched Simon from that couple's hands. At first they tried every possible way to stop me. Simon was their cash cow after all. Albert had ordered them to keep watch over Simon. Until I called the police, they finally gave up completely. After all, I am Simon's real mother. Mom, where are we going? Simon held my hand tightly, unwilling to let go again. Ahem, he coughed briefly twice. But I still heard it. In such hot weather, Simon actually caught a cold. Suspecting it might be viral, I rushed him to the hospital. But Simon refused. Mom, he said, I just choked a bit. See, my throat isn't hoarse at all. Let's not go to the hospital. The teacher said flu cases are serious now, we might get infected if we go. I nodded, thinking it made sense, and went to buy cold medicine at the pharmacy instead. Then we returned together to the home we used to live in. I cleaned while wearing a mask. Simon was very well behaved. He also picked up a mask and followed behind me with a run-out towel, saying, Mom, here. His sensible demeanor made my heart ache. After finally tidying up, I gave him a bath, picking up the old picture books, only to realize he's already in 2nd grade, long past the age for picture books. Mommy, you're really not leaving again, are you? Under the orange light, his little face was pointed, unlike Anthony's chubby cheeks. We're not leaving anymore. Mommy will stay with Simon from now on and make him chubby too, okay? Simon stared at me, remaining silent for a long time. Mommy, won't Anthony's dad come cause trouble for you? I've already told him about my memory loss and recovery. Naturally, he was happy, but he was also worried for me. I ruffled his hair and assured him Albert wouldn't bother me anymore. That night, Simon snuggled up to me and slept sweetly. A faint smile lingered at the corners of her lips all night. Anthony also called me 3 times. I didn't answer. I hung up every time. I only called the nanny to check in. She said Anthony refused to sleep alone but didn't want her company either, and was throwing a tantrum. I said oh and just told him to do as he pleased. Now, I'm especially looking forward to Albert returning home soon. That way, I won't have to deal with Anthony anymore. And I can file for divorce directly. 8 later that week, Simon and I lived together. In our small house, we led a warm and simple life. Anthony never contacted me again. It seemed he had grown accustomed to life without me. Good. I smiled slightly as I matched Simon's outfit. Before being forced to be with Albert, I had some savings. If spent wisely, it could sustain us mother and son comfortably for several years. I wanted my Simon to attend school clean and presentable. Simon has also been very diligent. He performs well in school. Not long ago, he even won first place in an international chess competition. Anthony came in second. When Simon told me, he deliberately mentioned it. What a pure-hearted child he is. I patted his head and said, in Mom's eyes, no matter what, you're always the best. Do you know what the best means? It means one and only. Yes, Simon is my only son. The child I willingly brought into this world with the love of my life. Simon understood and held me tightly, crying with a pouting mouth for a long time. He was already coughing. This crying fit directly led to pneumonia. We rushed to the hospital overnight. Who would have thought that there, we'd encounter Anthony's nanny, who seemed to have something to say but hesitated when she saw me. Madam, the young master has had a high fever for several days. He wouldn't let us contact you, otherwise he refuses to take his medicine. I made time to visit him, just in time to catch him throwing a tantrum in the hospital room. She'd better not come see me. When I die, let's see if she regrets it. 9 I turned around and left immediately. If he still has the energy to yell and make a scene, it means it's not serious. Simon needs me more. So I returned to Simon's room. I focused on caring for Simon. Naturally, Simon knew Anthony was in this hospital too. But he didn't care at all. Nor would he care whether I would take care of Anthony or not. He would just hold me and say, Mom is free. Hearing this, I was startled. When I asked who taught him that, he fell silent for a moment before answering, Dad. The wound in my heart tore open of its own accord. The second month after Albert confessed his feelings to me, Robert died in a foreign land. Was his death truly an accident, or was it orchestrated? I was never certain. The only certainty was, after Robert's death, Albert was the happiest person. He told me immediately, calling it good news. Simon was just 1 year old at that time. Still nursing, he snatched Simon away and asked me condescendingly whether I wanted Simon or my freedom. If I chose freedom, he would drop Simon to his death. He was a beast. I didn't dare gamble. So, I gave up my own freedom. Probably because Simon's constitution wasn't very good, his condition kept fluctuating, so I wanted him to stay in the hospital a few more days. Occasionally I'd take him to the hospital lawn to get some fresh air. Coincidentally, we met on his discharge day. He happened to run into Anthony as well. When he saw us, his eyes widened in shock. Have you been taking care of him all these days? 10 Even though Anthony was so angry that his face was completely distorted. I didn't even acknowledge him. I said, I'm not his mother anymore. I helped Simon put on his sun protective jacket. The sun was out, and I worried he might get sunburned. Anthony's nannies were bustling about too. Anthony ran up to me instead. He threw Simon's sunproof jacket on the ground. How dare you give him a jacket to wear? That little beggar. Before I could finish speaking, my expression changed. It seems he forgot the warning I gave him. I took Simon back to the ward, coaxed him to sleep, and left him with the hourly worker. Then I returned to the core residence. The nanny told me that Anthony locked himself in his room as soon as he got home. I asked the nanny if he had called Albert to complain. The nanny shook her head and said no. I was a little disappointed, but it didn't stop me from teaching him a lesson. I took the key and opened the door. Anthony was sitting on the bed, his face lowered in disgust. When he raised his head and saw it was me, a glimmer seemed to flash in his eyes. But it vanished instantly. Why did you come back? Not taking care of your little beggar anymore. How amusing. You actually mistook that little beggar for your son. He kept blabbering on and on. But the man was already standing on his head. Slap, slap, slap. His wails echoed through the villa. Anthony cried while feeling indignant. How dare you hit me? I've just recovered from my illness. You don't even care about me. Stop hitting me. I told him to pause for a moment. I questioned him word by word. Have you forgotten what I told you? If you bully Simon again, I'll hang you up and beat you. Hearing this, he froze. Then he went berserk again. But I'm your son. How can you side with an outsider? Simon is not an outsider. He's my son. Before I married your father, he was already my son. To me, he's more precious than anyone else. No one gets to bully him, not even you. I raised my hand again. This time, Anthony stopped struggling. It was as if part of his soul had been drained away, leaving him frozen. At the same time, in this quiet moment, the sound of familiar footsteps approached. It was the voice I had once longed to hear. Yet it was also the voice that, in times past, had filled me with dread. Albert had returned. 11 Had enough of this tantrum. His voice was as calm as ever, as if everything about me had nothing to do with him. If it were back when I had amnesia, I'm afraid I would have been heartbroken again. But now, I couldn't be more eager. At this moment, Albert looked down at the sobbing Anthony. Still, he chose to step forward with a frown. Speak properly, he said. How could you hit LeShuan? He is our child. I don't like it when you act like this. I found it amusing. He still thought I was in the dark, believing Anthony was the fruit of our love. How disgusting. Anthony seized the chance to slip from my grasp and ran to Albert's side. Daddy, Mommy got hit by a car and went crazy. She says Simon is her real son. Could you take Mommy to see a doctor? He still wished his mother would return to her old self. He didn't like not being able to cuddle with Mommy at night. He didn't like it when Mommy hit him. I dislike even more when Mom is nice to others. Yet there wasn't a trace of surprise in Albert's eyes. He merely closed his eyes briefly and spoke calmly. You remember. 12. He still maintained that same indifferent attitude. I felt at peace, it seemed. He had truly changed his heart. There was no time to waste. I immediately filed for divorce. Truth be told, even without recovering my memories, I want a divorce from him too. It's just that my state of mind is different now. Back then, every day was a struggle for me. Everyone said Albert was fond of Grace. She frequently took her to various social events. Yet as Albert's wife, I had never made a public appearance. Grace somehow managed to win over Anthony too. Anthony willingly became their little matchmaker. Even last year's birthday wish was I hope Dad and Grace will always stay with me. In this house, I gradually lost my place. But fortunately, I finally remembered. This was never my home to begin with. What's lost is lost. Now, as long as Albert agrees to divorce, all past grievances will be wiped clean. I stared at Albert, waiting to hear the answer I desired from his lips. He remained silent for a long time, staring straight at me. I don't know how much time passed. He let out a cruel laugh. Who said I changed my heart? He was just a little too relaxed, that's all. After all, he had pursued Emily for so long, enduring her cold indifference for ages. He just wanted to experience what it felt like to be the one in control of a relationship for once. He also wanted Emily to lose sleep and suffer over him for a while. It wasn't too much to ask, but he never could have imagined. Emily regained her memory so quickly. If only I had known. I should have taken medical intervention. He blames himself for not being resolute enough. He stepped closer to me in his polished leather shoes. The voice sounded eerily ghost-like. Darling, I told you, I'll love you forever. Of course, I've said it too. If you go looking for that little bastard again, I will make sure you're punished. 13. Anthony was still in a daze. Dad, what are you talking about? Is Simon really Mom's child? That's impossible. Mom only has me as her child. He ran out crying loudly. After he disappeared, Albert locked me in the basement. At this moment, my sanity completely collapsed. The familiar feeling of suffocation washed over me again. This lunatic is at it again. By what right do you lock me up? By the right of you being my wife. I am not. You are. He was choking me. Just a little more force and I would stop breathing. Perhaps hatred had drowned out everything else. I began to meet his gaze directly. You killed my husband. The grip in his hand suddenly loosened. Darling, what are you saying? I don't understand. Was that fire an accident, or arson? Does it matter if it was an accident or not? That bastard still died. Or do you want another one to die? His gloomy voice rang in my ears, like a demon's claw gripping my heart. What do you mean? I'm telling you, you're not allowed to touch Simon. If he lays a finger on Simon, I'll perish together with him. I swear. And he always knows exactly what I'm thinking. Don't get angry. I won't touch him. If you harm him, wouldn't you be left without any weakness? What about Anthony and me? That boy actually likes you very much. What's wrong with you liking him in return? He said to me in a coaxing tone. I hope I can obey him, but how is that possible? You just called Simon a bastard. Actually, in my heart, Anthony is the bastard. Albert's face froze into ice. But the next second, he didn't get angry. Instead, he laughed softly and spoke into the darkness outside. Anthony, did you hear that? Having a son does have its advantages. In this world, he wasn't the only one Emily looked down upon anymore. 14. Anthony ran out utterly heartbroken. Then all the doors in the basement slammed shut. Albert knelt before me, unbuckled his belt, and began the cycle of torment anew. In my dazed state, amidst Albert's stream of obscenities, I caught fragments of coherent speech. I should have cherished the time when you lost your memory. Actually, those were our best days, weren't they? Emily, if only you could have stayed amnesiac forever. Good days. Yes, indeed. We did have good days. Days he stole and swindled into existence. In the basement, unaware of day or night. With Simon weighing on my mind, sleep was impossible. Suddenly, the door was flung open. Anthony's eyes were swollen, as if from crying. He walked toward me step by step, stubbornly declaring, I'm not a bastard. I'm your and Dad's real son. You used to say I was your favorite child. You can't lie to me. I forced a bitter smile. Who deceived whom no longer mattered. Anthony stood beside me, staring straight ahead. Dad said I could let you out. I want to eat the cake you made. Will you make it for me? Just like that, you're letting me go. I can hardly believe it. I thought Albert would lock me up for 10 days or half a month, just like at the beginning. I remained silent for a long time, which made Anthony a bit anxious. If you don't make it for me, then I'll keep bullying Simon tomorrow. 14. I made 2 portions of cake and wanted to bring one to Simon. But Albert absolutely wouldn't let me go to the hospital. If I had asked, he might have taken his anger out on Simon again. Simon hadn't yet recovered from his illness. I couldn't bear to make him suffer any more. For a moment, I deeply regretted coming back. No matter how angry I was or how much I wanted to teach Anthony a lesson, I shouldn't have returned here. But if I hadn't come back, Albert, with his temper, would have gone to the hospital looking for me. And if that happened in front of Simon, it would have been even more humiliating. I was too confident. I actually believed so firmly that Albert was going to let me go. I placed the cake on the table. Anthony ate it with delight. He finished the cake and fell asleep contentedly. Albert returned, looking at the remaining slice of cake. Saved for me. I didn't respond. He understood anyway. Whatever. He didn't want the cake either. Anthony is the only one in the family with a sweet tooth. As for him, the only sweetness he craves is Emily. The nights felt exceptionally long and torturous. After Albert had his fill, he pulled her back into his arms, pressed tightly together. In this regard, he never denied himself. Even when he was being difficult recently, insisting on making Emily jealous, he didn't restrain himself at night, still taking what he wanted. But no matter what, those days when he deliberately neglected Emily, he had indeed gone a bit too far. So now, he decided to compromise. Rarely speaking with such sincerity, he told Emily, "You can bring Simon back." 15. Albert never imagined there would come a day when he could be this generous. How dare that little bastard be so active right under her nose? And even explaining his relationship with Grace to her. Actually, there's nothing to explain anyway. She's just a tool. Don't be jealous, alright? He held me and asked repeatedly. My body stiffened, fingers clutching tightly at the pristine white sheets beneath me as I forced out a single word through clenched teeth. Fine. Albert appeared to be asking me. But in truth, if I refused, I will never see Simon again. Arriving at the hospital, I was still worried about how to explain this matter to Simon. But unexpectedly, Simon accepted it easily. Wherever Mom is, that's where I'll be. I'm not afraid of Albert. Simon was a precocious child. He was afraid I'd be put in a difficult position. After bringing Simon back, Anthony's attitude clearly changed. He no longer called Simon little beggar. Probably because I beat him up once, and he learned his lesson. Only now, he's become even more noisy. If Simon calls me Mom once, he insists on calling me twice. Because it was the first night, I was afraid Simon wouldn't adjust well. I brought milk to his room to keep him company. As I closed the door, I caught a glimpse of Anthony's resentful gaze, but I didn't hesitate. Snap! I shut the door directly. Outside the door, Anthony burst into tears. Looking up at the tall man beside him, he couldn't stop complaining. Why did you have to let Simon come to our house? Look, Simon is going to take my mom away from me. Albert's expression turned icy. What are you looking at? I never got that kind of treatment. Anthony pouted and looked at him. Is it because Mom doesn't like you? So I became a bastard too. Because of these words, Albert punished Anthony by making him do test papers. Looking at my son's defiant expression, he didn't want to say another word. Albert was lying by my bedside, and it was already past midnight. As usual, his hands began wandering all over me. Fiercely, divorce me. Who allowed it? Actually, I have 100 ways to keep you bound. But now, I want to treat you well. I've tasted the bitterness of the past 5 years. He had no desire whatsoever to return to those days of constant confrontation. Nor did he harbor any lingering regrets. During the time she had lost her memory, she would even feel jealous and heartbroken on her own. This is enough. It can also serve as memories to be savored repeatedly in the years to come. It's just a pity about Anthony. Emily, do you only care about his son? Don't you love our son at all? Albert's hand gripping my waist tightened slightly. When I turned over and met his gaze directly, his eyes gleamed with a dark light, as if he could see right through everything. You've actually developed feelings for me, haven't you? Even the amnesiac version of you is still you. You can't cut it out. Don't even think about cutting it out in this lifetime. He's really full of himself. I forced a mocking expression and smiled at him. Whatever you say. His face froze over. 15. Anthony finished his exam and received an awkward phone call. Anthony, I heard you were sick the other day. Grace made some soup and will bring it over to you today. In the past, Anthony would have welcomed her warmly. But now, he could hardly muster any enthusiasm for Grace. After all, Mom had abandoned him without a second thought. Yet then again, he reconsidered. It's good to have Grace come over. Let Mom see that besides her, Grace is also good to him. This way, Mom will start paying attention to him again. Otherwise, she's always fussing over Simon every day. She's so annoying. Grace is here. Too bad. She was stopped outside the villa. Albert had already given orders not to let her in. Not even Anthony could change that. Brat, don't think I don't know what's on your mind. It won't work. You could find yourself 100 mothers, and she still wouldn't care. Anthony was furious. He wanted nothing more than to knock Albert flying with a single headbutt. But he didn't dare. There was nothing he could do. I had no choice but to go to the main gate and apologize to Grace. Grace, I'm truly sorry. My dad said if you go in, it'll ruin his relationship with Mom. Though it was harsh to say, Albert had made Anthony deliver this message. Anthony could only comply. To my surprise, Grace's expression instantly darkened. Impossible. Albert stopped loving his wife long ago. Are you pulling tricks for your mother's sake? After all I've done for you, you dare block me at the door. She had reached her breaking point. Here she was, a young lady from a wealthy family, coming to tutor Anthony in his own home. That would have been bearable, if only Anthony weren't so ungrateful. Still making soup. She threw the insulated container away without hesitation. There's no need to please that brat anymore. Given Albert's attitude toward her, their happy ending was just around the corner. When that time comes, what good could possibly come to his ex-wife's son? 16. Anthony was stunned. What followed was anger. Grace had actually deceived his feelings. All that talk about liking him, about caring for him, it's all fake. He's so pitiful. He actually left Mom aside for that wicked woman. What a complete idiot he is. Wah! Anthony cried all the way back to the villa's living room, plopping down on the floor and wailing even louder. I couldn't sleep with all the noise. Simon suggested we go check, so I went downstairs. Who would have thought? Anthony rushed over and hugged me tightly the moment he saw me. Mom, don't leave me. Can't we be like before? Dad loves you, you love Dad, and you both love me. There was a time when warm memories existed here too. Albert and I took turns pushing Anthony high on the swing. He laughed and shouted, his joyful voice filling the entire home. But such memories are nothing more than bubbles to us. One day, they'll vanish without a trace. The wind blew, carrying not even a trace of soap scent. Anthony should understand by now. Your father and I will separate sooner or later. You need to get used to life without a mother, okay? Although Albert kept threatening me. But I didn't believe it. Simon and I had lived our entire lives under his coercion. Anthony was furious. Pointing at Simon, he shouted, it's all your fault. Why didn't you die with your father? Then, in one furious motion, he gave Simon a hard shove bang, knocking him to the ground. Simon fell, and he never got up again. 17. Simon received 3 critical condition notices. The last time, the doctor let me see him for the final farewell. I couldn't believe it. How is this possible? He was perfectly fine this morning. You must be mistaken. My Simon couldn't have died. He's only 7 years old. 7 years old. He hadn't even had the chance to properly witness the flowers bloom and fade. How could he die? Just as I was about to collapse, Albert caught me. He told me the truth. It turned out that Simon had congenital heart disease, coupled with years of neglect. His body could no longer hold on. Yet Albert had the hospital keep it from me. I didn't want you to worry, he said with sincere words. But I knew. He was afraid of losing the leverage he had over me. 18. When I saw Simon again, he was covered in tubes. But he remained strong. He smiled and said goodbye to me, with a picture book hidden beneath his pillow. It was the same one I used to read to him when he was little. A book about understanding death. Mom, I'm not scared, because you already taught me. Even though I don't know if I'll ever see you again, lying beside you once more makes me really happy. Mom, you have to promise me too. He gripped my index finger. Speak, you want freedom. He didn't know what freedom meant, but it must be something wonderful. Before father died, he left a recording for the family. Only he had heard it, and later it was deleted. Dad said to Mom, Emily, don't worry about me. Send Simon to the countryside. Others don't matter, your freedom is what's most important. So, of course he had to relay Dad's words to Mom. 19. After sending Simon away, I hardly shed any more tears. Every day I just watched the migratory birds fly south. I passed the time by spacing out. Day after day. Albert couldn't bear it any longer and pressured me again. If you're sad, then cry. Just cry. I shook my head, but smiled. I'm not sad, I'm happy. I finally have no weaknesses left. You can no longer threaten me. I want a divorce. I want my freedom. Yes, I still want to live. To see the great rivers and mountains for Simon and Robert. Meeting a kindred spirit. Let me share the story of our one family trio. I want freedom too. I refuse to be imprisoned by Albert any longer. Dream on. Albert dragged me to the basement. He demanded from me like a devil. No one can see me except Anthony. You should spend more time bonding with Anthony. If that doesn't work, we can always have another child. I refuse to believe that having a child with me won't give you your weakness. The endless torment repeats itself, with no end in sight. Finally, he left the house. Anthony was allowed to visit me. He had become much more introverted, but his eyes still lit up when he saw me. Her mouth began to chatter incessantly. Mom, I miss you so much. Why did our family end up like this? You used to love Dad and me so much. I numbly reminded him. That's because I lost my memory. Even with amnesia, it's still you. Mom, won't you come back? Anthony will be very good from now on. Anthony doesn't like Grace anymore, only likes you. Hearing such resolute words, I raised my eyes. Do you really only like me? Then can you do me a favor? I can't sleep, but there's a bottle of sleeping pills in my room. Could you bring it to me? Don't tell your father. 20. That day, Anthony was especially happy because he helped me, chirping in my ear. Mom, when can you leave this place? It's so dark here. I don't like it. Mom, do you really think I'm a bastard child? From now on, will you never talk me into sleep again? Or make me little cakes anymore? But it's okay. I'll make it for you. Mom, can you promise me that even if you divorce Dad, you won't forget me, okay? Mom, he murmured before falling asleep beside me. He was still sound asleep when Albert returned. Watching the heartwarming scene of our mother-son affection, a glimmer of relief appeared in his eyes. I also prepared a few side dishes. There's a small kitchen in the basement. This was specially opened by Albert. Back when he kept me locked here, he would often cook for me. He said that to capture a woman's heart, you must first capture her stomach. He was constantly worming his way into every aspect of my daily life. And today, I cooked for him for the first time. He finished every last bite to save my face, and only then did I feel relieved. After all the twists and turns, I finally won once in front of Albert. But when my consciousness began to blur, my body was caught in his embrace. His last breath was still scorching hot. Emily, even in death, must you die with me? I knew it these 6 years together, you've fallen for me long ago. Stop denying it. His medication took effect slower than mine. By the time he held me tightly, it was already too late to break free. At the last moment before losing consciousness, I heard him say, Robert's death wasn't my fault. I've been treating Simon all along. I'm not that evil, really. When we get to the underworld, don't ignore me over these things anymore. When I closed my eyes in his arms, my life seemed like a dream. Extra story Anthony. 6-year-old Anthony lost both his parents on the same day. That morning when he woke up, he saw mommy and daddy embracing each other and felt happy. She thought they had reconciled. He happily ran to the yard and played with the dog all afternoon. He waited until dinner time, when his mother called him home to eat. But he never got to have that reunion dinner after all. The villa echoed with wails. The nanny grandmother tearfully pulled him into her embrace, murmuring, what will become of the young master now? Such is sin. Later, his grandparents arrived. They arranged the funeral affairs for his parents. At the same time, he was taken away. 20 years passed in a blink. He had grown up, and now he returned to that house. The first thing he did was bury that basement. Then he went to the back mountain to the place where his parents and older brother were laid to rest. I never acknowledged Simon as his brother. Now I'm even more jealous. Why has he been able to stay by mom's side for over 20 years? While he has been alone for over 20 years, he prayed countless times, yet only dreamed of mom once. And that time, there was no tenderness to speak of either. Mom was scolding him. Why did you bury me with your father? Why put me in your family's cemetery? I want to leave that place. I never want to see you again. I want out. On his journey to becoming a little matchmaker, he was getting closer and closer to success. But after crying it all out, he arrived here without a moment's delay, relocating the grave. Mom, I've come to take you away. At the same time, he reluctantly took Simon with him. Lucky you again, dear brother. After this incident, he dreamed of Emily again. Emily still looked as young as ever. He had also reverted to his childhood self. Yet, no matter how desperately he called out Mom, Emily merely smiled at him and turned to the man beside her. Robert, look, I wonder whose child this is, calling me Mom. Could he be lost? As she spoke, a boy rushed over and hugged Emily. Mom, I want to play basketball with the neighbor's brother tomorrow. The doctor said I can do some exercise after my surgery. Emily hugged him back. All right, go ahead, but take care of yourself. By the way, look at that child over there. Who exactly? Before she could finish, Emily turned around and could no longer see him. Anthony still stood in the same spot. Tears streamed down her face. So this is how happy Mom was when I didn't exist. That's good, as long as Mom is happy. The end.